So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever in the world you are. I'm Alethea, Pata's Youth Ambassador, and I'm very happy to have you here today for our Scaling Up Your Impact and SDG workshop as part of the Pata Youth Symposium happening alongside Pata Annual Summit. So thank you very much everyone for joining us. Today's session is sponsored by Sigmund. The Sigmund project is a free open source platform that connects innovators and promotes collaboration in the global tourism industry. And we will find out more about Sigmund a little bit later. But first, let's move on to our announcements. So everyone, welcome to the Pata Youth community. Here we are an international bunch of youths from all around the world. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from. We want to get to know you a little bit better. And we always have frequently asked questions happening during and after the webinar. So please note that your certificate of participant as an attendee to the Pata Youth Symposium will be sent out next week after the entire Youth Symposium is over. This webinar recording will also be made available soon. So before we begin, I just wanted to lay out what we're going to be doing today during our workshop. So right now, the webinar has started, and soon I'm going to hand over the time to our guest speaker, Roy Jensen, to do a 1-hour workshop on scaling up your impact. This is an SDG workshop that he has designed. I'm super excited for what he has installed for us today. After the workshop, we'll be introducing you to the Sigmund platform, and then we have a competition organized by Pata Canada Vancouver Capilano University Student Chapter for us. Lastly, we will be ending with Q&As and conclusion, and the whole session is going to take 1 hour and 30 minutes. So before we truly begin the webinar, of course, I really want to take a moment to thank my Pata Youth sponsors. So my Pata Youth sponsors are a group of 5 organizations that have supported the Pata Youth program throughout the global pandemic and constantly given us their support and attention. They are iFree Group, Guam Visitors Bureau, Map2 Ventures, Sigmund, and Talent Basket. Without their support, it would be really difficult to run this Pata Youth program. We also have our co-hosts to thank. So today, our co-hosts are, very happily, from Bali Tourism Polytechnic, Dusit Thani College, Lombok Tourism Polytechnic, Taylor's University, the University of Baguio, and Pata Philippines University of Mindanao Student Chapter. Without the support of our co-hosts, today's event would not be as successful as it is today. So I'm very pleased to say thank you very much to our Pata Youth sponsors and our Pata Youth co-hosts for supporting us in today's program. Now, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Roy Jensen. Roy is a professor. Okay, so Roy is a professor, sorry about that. Roy is a professor of natural history, ecotourism, climate change in tourism and environmental stewardship in the Faculty of Global and Community Studies at Capilano University. He particularly excels in and enjoys teaching students in tourism, outdoor recreation, and global stewardship. For over 2 decades, Roy has helped educate the public about the importance of biodiversity and our human place within it. Though he has a passion for local ecosystems and the species that inhabit them, he also has a strong desire to relate the environment to our lives and larger issues such as planetary boundaries and personal ecological footprints. Roy, can you turn on your camera and say a few words to the audience?
Thank you very much, Althea. I really am excited to be here and to be part of this presentation today. And good introduction, thank you.
We're super excited to have you with us. And with that, honestly, I'm just gonna hand you the mic and you can start the workshop, and we're all ready to join you today on a journey of scaling up your impact.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. I'm gonna start by sharing my screen here, and I'll explain how we came up to this to this idea of scaling up your impact, and then we'll move on from there. So maybe Althea, before we start here, can I just gotta go back to the beginning? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Looks good.
So thank you very much, everyone, for attending on Zoom and Attendify. This is exciting to be here. It was Stephanie Wells, my colleague and chair of our department at Capilano University, who asked me to participate in this event. And Capilano University has been involved with PATA for quite a number of years. And this gave me my first chance to do something with the PATA group. And I've had many of my students who've been involved with PATA in the past. So I'm excited to be here today. The idea of this came from Scaling Your Impact. It came from a course that I did this last winter from Cornell University on climate change. And the idea was, we have lots of knowledge, we have lots of understanding, but we don't have enough action going on the planet from people. And that goes for everybody. And I wanted to look at this as an idea as I get ready to teach next fall, to talk to my students about scaling up their own impact, mobilizing their own communities. And so this workshop 1 hour presentation is a challenge. It's a challenge to you to design projects specifically in your local communities and generate actionable outcomes. And that's what I would like to do tonight. So I'm going to take the next hour. And towards the end, I'm asking you to answer a poll. Throughout, I'm asking you to reflect and think on some things. So you might want to have handy a way to take some notes as you think perhaps about big decisions you've made in your life, what SDGs you most connect to. And by the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask you to make a commitment in the chat that you'll take forward to the Sigmund platform after an hour from now. So quick introduction of myself. I've actually taught at Capilano University for 20 years. I see myself as a very experiential instructor, which makes it difficult for me online. I like to be in the classroom with students, getting feedback and getting them to do hands-on things. So today I'm talking with you, asking you to move to hands-on with an actionable event or idea. I teach environmental courses, natural history, environmental stewardship, tourism and climate change, ecotourism. And it's courses like that that really charge me, because I have a background as an environmental educator. I have a master's of environmental education from Royal Roads University. I'm a naturalist, meaning I go out into nature and really take it in. And then I love to share it with everybody else. And I can tell you this week, with spring migration happening here in North America, I'm hearing new warblers by my ear today that I haven't heard since last year. And it's always exciting to me to what's going on in the natural world around me. I'm an author of a book called Active Vancouver that I wrote in 2015 for people who are in Vancouver wanting to recreate, but it grounds them in the natural world and the recreational events that they're doing. And I am currently writing, actually coming very close to the end of writing, a book called Wildlife Weekends in Southern British Columbia. And it's a wildlife viewing guide for Southern BC. So maybe what I can do is say why the SDGs. So why was it that I wanted to present today on the Sustainable Development Goals? It's because it's something that is really close to my heart. There are 3 pillars to the Sustainable Development Goals: the social, the economic, and the environmental. And honestly, I truly believe that those 3 have to work together to be able to have success in any one of the 3. So to have success on the environment, you need it to work for people, and you need it to work in our economy, because people need to live in places and grow their lives. And so the 3 pillars to me are very important. There really is a 4th pillar here that's quite important too, but I'm not going into it in this presentation, and it's governance. It's good governance. to make sure those other three go smoothly. The other of the four way to look at this is the 4 P's. And this is people, prosperity, peace, and the planet. And I'm going to take that idea with the planet is it's the foundation really of the others, because the biosphere is absolutely foundational to all the other pieces. Now, my work, I just told you that I teach in tourism and climate change and stewardship and ecotourism. Much of my work, you can kind of guess, probably you can guess that it relates to these SDGs right here, number 13, number 14, number 15, and maybe when it comes to my students and me trying to engage them in action, it goes back to number 12 and number 11. Those are ones that I feel like I can get my students to act on. And I ask them to think about people, prosperity, peace, and the planet. So let's take this 17 Sustainable Development Goals and look at it in a different way. And so this next photo, this next graphic shows you how the biosphere has to be foundational for the society and the economy to work. These are the 3 pillars. I think of this as maybe the cake model. And I see this as one of my priorities in my life, and maybe one of my purposes in my life, is to bring large goals like this down to a personal level so students and people can see how these things look in their own lives. So that's going to be a little bit of my goal in the upcoming slides as we talk as well. Because it's sometimes difficult for an individual to see how they can have an impact on something like SDG number 1, zero hunger for everyone by 2030. I mean, this is just such a huge task. And so I try to see it as one of my roles to try to bring that down to our level and people's level. I believe that certain goals in this, for everybody who's attending today, there are some of these that are probably deeply held values for you. So maybe this is my first question for you. Go back, take a look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, maybe pull up an image of this on your computer. And I want you to think about which ones speak most closely to your heart. What are these ones where you feel like you could bridge something you're doing with that kind of goal? Or habits perhaps that you would change in your daily life, or people who are in your world, in your communities that you feel like you could help them understand that particular goal better. Because efforts really do matter on a local scale. And so we're talking about scaling up your impact today, and I want you to think about which sustainable development goals are closest to your heart. All right, so a little cartoon here, not really so much of a cartoon at all. When I think of cartoons are funny. This is a bit of a reality though. There's a city having to deal with COVID, and at the same time that COVID's happening, there's climate change and a loss of biodiversity that's happening in the world. And so we're focused on the immediate right now, getting vaccinations, social distancing, wearing masks. But the reality is the loss of biodiversity on this planet, it's not stopping. If you look at the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report, you'll see that there's more critically endangered species on the planet now than in 2020 than there ever has been before. If you look at climate change, you'll see that we've had 9 of the warmest 10 years on record in the last decade. You'll see that CO2 is still increasing. If you've never gone onto the Keeling Curve website, it's in Hawaii. Take a look at what the CO2 is today. It's as high as it's ever been in the atmosphere. Our atmospheric temperatures are going up and our oceans are still acidifying. And all this is happening while we're focused on COVID-19. So we have to remember that from a tourism point of view, when we come out of this pandemic, we want to come out with a response that's in line with the urgency of the environmental conditions that are still affecting the planet beyond COVID. And so a lot of people in Canada or the US have talked about build back better, or the green plan, the green plan in Europe or the US, and or the Green New Deal rather. And the key is that as these big decisions get made by our governments right now, they need to look at these other two major things: the loss of biodiversity on the planet and climate change. So my question now for you is, in tourism, can you be part of the response to be looking at these bigger issues? So perhaps today, your commitment that you make might revolve around one of these. Okay, so let's look then at the Sustainable Development Goals and you. And maybe the first part, like I said in my introduction, is I want you to think about the Sustainable Development Goals that speak most closely to your own personal values or your heart. So when I think of that, I think of family and friends and education, the right to education, the right to health, the right to equality. I think of nature. I think of my community. Those are values of mine that I really hold deeply, and some even stronger than others. And as I look at this 17 SDGs, those absolutely fit into certain categories right here. So think of your own. Now think about tourism. Which Sustainable Development Goal most closely affects what you're doing in tourism? So if you're in the food and beverage industry, and I see Naz, one of my colleagues, is online here. If you're in food and beverage like Naz is, then maybe you're looking at SDGs like zero hunger, making connections there, or good health and well-being. And I'm sure, or responsible consumption and production, the way products are sourced. So in certain tourism areas, there's going to be some Sustainable Development Goals that are more applicable to what it is that you're doing. So pay attention, which ones most easily connect with what you do in tourism. And maybe the third question here is, which SDG can you most likely see yourself taking action on? And some might be more relatable to you than others. And as I say, some might just be closer to your heart or closer to your career path. So I want you to think about these now while we move to the later slides. And as we move to the later slides, I'll ask you to post a response on the platform a little bit later. So the SDGs and you, this is still about you. And the beginning title of this lecture tonight was Looking Back and Moving Forward. So this is the slide about looking back. And what I'd like you to do is, again, this is a reflection on your own. Identify a critical decision that you've made in your life that has worked out well. So you're really glad you made the decision that you did, because today you really see benefits to making the decision that you did. Then identify a critical decision you made in the past where you wish you had have made that decision a little differently. And why do you now think you would have liked to have made it a little differently? And the reason why I'm asking you this is I want you to sort of think, can you make a critical decision today to connect to an action that you can commit to here in this workshop as it connects to the environment? So I'm just going to give a couple examples of critical decisions, and they're not all connected to the environment. But as I think about my own life, I think about saying yes or no to a job offer. And what that looked like going forward. I think about choosing one school program over another school program and where that took me. I think about whether I should have stayed in a relationship or left a relationship. And was that a decision that was a good decision or a bad decision? Yes or no to marriage. Or the other day I visited my uncle who's 96 years old. He's doing very well still, but it occurred to me when I came back home, making a critical decision about visiting a relative or friend when it was your last opportunity. And so those would all be, in my mind, critical decisions. And I would like you to think about whether you could commit to a critical decision today, because in 9 years' time, the Sustainable Development Goals will end for the period 2015 to 2030. And my feeling is a decision made today, when you look back 8 or 9 years later from the decision you made now, can you look at that and say, wow, I'm really glad I made the decision I did. It's worked out very well as I reflect back on the decision that I made at that time. Okay, so let's think about making decisions around an environmental commitment and going beyond yourself through to your communities and to your networks. Now, you might want to think about the kinds of networks that connect with you. Automatically, my mind, when I wrote this, came to work and church and school or sports teams that you're connected with. You have online social networks. My son is playing computer games, and he has a full network of people that he's never met that he plays computer games with. He has his friends, online friends and personal friends, clubs, affiliations. So there's a whole array of different networks that we're all involved in. And maybe what you can do is ask yourself now, reflect on the Sustainable Development Goals. When Althea asked me to plan this presentation today, she said, don't make this a presentation about giving people knowledge about the Sustainable Development Goals. At this stage, the audience is an audience that's a very well-educated audience. They will have an understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals going in, the global goals. And so instead, build on what it is that they already know. And so my question to you now is, how well do you know those 17 goals that I put out earlier? Do you already connect in your current actions at home or in the workplace with ideas around the goals? Or have you ever spoken up on one of those goals? So I'm just going to go back here. Let's just go back to the goals that are there. Have you ever spoken up around the workplace about gender equality or clean water and sanitation? Have you ever spoken up amongst your friends or networks on climate action or what's happening in the oceans? Have you ever spoken up in your family about presenting as good health, well-being, or quality education? And so you may already have some connections to the Sustainable Development Goals, but you didn't know it because you're passionate about exercise and physical health, or you're passionate about purchasing your products that you buy responsibly. So that's a piece to think about. And if you have not ever thought of any of those and you've not talked to others, then why not? And maybe that would connect to barriers about why you haven't proceeded to try to talk to other people about critical things that are happening on this planet. that are outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're going to talk about barriers in just a few minutes. So I am a big fan of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and that's unsdn.org. Check out their projects, including this one. And this is the Youth Solutions Report from last year, from 2020. And this is just a screen grab of part of the table of contents. Look at chapter 4, 6, or 8, solutions from young social entrepreneurs in Asia Pacific to the COVID-19 pandemic. Or chapter 6, gender equality as a driver of young entrepreneurship and innovation. Chapter 8, the role of young entrepreneurs in protecting biodiversity. This is a fantastic report that's driven by youth, designed by youth, with projects that come all this today. Sorry, I keep saying tonight, people are in. So I wanted to profile this today, and so I grabbed 3 out of this Youth Solutions Report, and one of them is an example, Build Like a Woman. And the idea is that it's targets stay-at-home mothers with low income. So it connects with SDGs 5, 3, and 8, and it is the youth who've put together a program to try to help women who are stay-at-home mothers and lack income. The Fusion Hub, the second one on here, is out of Fiji. And it's about trying to work with people and build their capacity on a zero-waste lifestyle. And so it's a consultancy on sustainable tourism practices to address plastic waste. The ELA generation is a program, is an app actually, that's, they say that a shadow pandemic is happening right alongside COVID, and that shadow pandemic is violence against women. And so they're trying to build an app for education and resource connections for women. And all 3 of these in the Youth Solutions Report, of which there would be 97 others, I think there's 100 solutions in there, are all youth who've designed, developed, and through this organization attained funding to make real change connected to sustainable development goals like the ones here. As I started doing research for this presentation today, the other one that I came across was out of Florida, and it was a program where that called Ideas for Us. And the idea was to focus projects on energy, on water, food, waste, and ecology. And then in every project, connect them to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I liked this, and when I found it doing the research for this presentation, I liked it because it was really tangible, really feasible kinds of ideas that I could get my head into and see myself doing right here in my community, or doing these sorts of things with my students in my community. So a local cleanup, and you can see they measure it by metrics. Of how many trash bags collected and how many volunteers, or making pollination bombs. So the idea is to help native plants in their communities through pollinators. Sierra Club had a workshop, and it was on leadership and trying, again, capacity building in environmental justice in inequality. And so to me, I felt like this was another really good example of what you could do right in your own local communities. And so now, and think about that with tourism. Which of those, or what kinds of things would connect with tourism? So if you want to find ideas, go to the Youth Solutions Report and go to Ideas for Us. or beyond. There's a lot of information online of solutions that are being created. One of the ones that I really like is Seeds of a Good Anthropocene. So I don't have that as a link tonight, but it just has come to my mind. Seeds, SEEDS, of a Good Anthropocene, and it's projects around the world that are solutions. And another one based on the oceans is the hashtag Ocean Optimism, started by a friend of mine, Ellen Kelsey, and it's on things that are happening, solutions that are happening around the ocean environment. So let's go to the next slide here, that is barriers. This is a really important thing to consider. A lot of times we all want to see change, and we always think that they are going to make the change. The government will do the change. They're responsible. But we often don't take it back to ourselves and ask ourselves why we're not the ones who are the change makers ourselves, and why don't we take that step? And so we have reasons. Oh, I'm busy, I've got commitments, I don't know enough, I don't know enough people, I don't know enough information. Barriers are things like time and money, a lack of knowledge and fear of the unknown, inertia, lack of motivation, or perhaps the possibility that there might be less than stellar results. But I want to say to you today that it's really important to meet these barriers if you are going to really, truly make change in this world. Barriers hold us back from a lot of things. And you probably can think and reflect on your own of some barriers that have stopped you from doing other things before. The real most important thing is to acknowledge that the barrier exists, to reflect deeply as to what the barrier is, work and find the motivation to overcome a barrier, and then use your knowledge, your smarts, your brain, and your networks to get through the barrier. And it's those students of mine who I've seen really grow the most in their education when they acknowledge and move through the barriers that are stopping them. And I have to be completely honest with you that I often will be asked to do something, and my immediate reaction is, there's lots of people out there who know way more than me. I'm not the one who really should be responding to that. Why don't you ask another person? And as I've gotten older, I've learned to say, no, I can do this. It's a challenge, but I can do this. And so think about addressing barriers to action. And sometimes it means being honest with others and with yourself. And sometimes it means creating trust in places that maybe you didn't have trust created before. This came from a lecture that I was in online. And again, I got a screen grab of this. Which type of sustainability change agent are you? And I just liked it because I felt like there were words in here that I could really relate to, that I saw myself as being. So for instance, I'm a professor at a university, so I facilitate. I help raise awareness in other students. I often help link students with another, a job or another instructor or an idea that they've never been exposed to before. So I'm a facilitator. I'm definitely an interpreter. I'm as a father, I've been an interpreter, and perhaps even a counselor, and even a counselor of my children, who are now 29 and 27. I'm definitely an awareness raiser and a solution provider. And so I put this up prompting you to ask yourself, what are you here? Are you the visionary? Are you the revolutionary in a group and a network that you're in? Are you more of a manager or an expert? I'm not an expert by any means. I didn't circle that one. I'm a generalist. I love too many ideas to be an expert in any one idea. And so I see myself as really a generalist. So take a look at some of those words and how they might connect to who you are. A lot of words on this one slide. I did originally was looking at breaking it up into two, decided just to keep it in one, and I just want to go through it here. And it's about tools. It's about tools to make an impact. And one of the tools is keeping things positive when you talk with other people about making change in their lives. So if you do decide to move a commitment out to try to work with your networks, you're making an intervention perhaps in people's lives. And consider really carefully before you do, what is it you want people to achieve that would connect to the Sustainable Development Goals? And if you do, in a leadership class years ago, I learned about SMART goals. SMART being, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And so if you have a goal, you really do want to think about those things that you can measure going forward when you are asking other people to make a change. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you what I mean about the kinds of changes you might want to think about them making. But always, you want to focus on a specific action that you want people to do, not a laundry list of things. People are already overwhelmed in their lives and they need to start in one place. And you want to start them with something that they can relate to, that matters to them, and that you can help them understand better. So, for example, food waste. I was talking to my niece tonight, and she was talking about having to purchase, she's at a university in Waterloo, Ontario, and having to purchase food for one person, and how often she finds she's having to throw out vegetables. And so she's trying to, we had a discussion around ideas of not having to throw out so much fresh food and things that she could do to help reduce her food waste. You definitely want to move people beyond knowledge and awareness to action. We have had a lot of time to gain knowledge and awareness on climate change and on biodiversity loss and other environmental factors. Now we need to be doing something on these. We can't just be learning about them. We want to assess our impact that we have when we make a decision and to make a commitment to something. And we want to know, is it the right impact? I say start with your heart. What does your heart say? If it's the right impact, that it's the right decision that you're making if your heart says that it is. But there'll be other organizations. All 17 of those development goals, Sustainable Development Goals, all have many organizations who are trying to achieve those. And many of those organizations will be in your local communities, without a doubt. There will be organizations for reducing poverty, for good health, for quality education, for responsible consumption. So if you are wondering about your impact that you're having on others, you have places to go, very likely in your local communities, of organizations that are already doing work in the same area that you're thinking of. So ultimately, don't let not knowing how to measure your impact be a barrier. So go back to barriers, think about barriers. And just because you don't always know exactly how you might be impacting the wider environmental goal that you've made, don't let that stop you. If you want to know more, check out the Cornell University website by Zoko Shenbrot. She was one of the instructors in the Cornell course that I just did that gave me the idea of using scaling up your impact for this presentation. Zoko, that's her whole set of research. Much of her research is on assessing impact. So here's an example then of making change. Now, this change could be in your own life, but I'm asking you today and through the Sigmund platform that you'll be moving towards to try to work with others to make change beyond yourself, to make change in your networks. So let's say that not food waste now, or maybe not driving less. Let's say we want to eat less meat or eat more green vegetables. Eat more closely to the land. A few things to do is, or something you could do is to set this out in a flow chart. So this is where I was before. This is where I am while I'm doing it. And this is where I want to be in the future. So you're really moving from a current state to a desired state. And in the process, you're creating steps. And in those steps, it's identifying 2 to 3 plant-based meals for the week. So tonight, we used the website Cookie and Kate, which is a favorite vegetarian website of mine, to make a stir fry tonight. And it was, we used Cookie and Kate recipe for a teriyaki sauce to go with it. And so that's a identification of a vegetarian meal. And I've had my students do this where they eat meat 7 days a week and they try to make a meatless Monday. And by the end of the term, maybe a meatless Monday and a meatless Thursday. And by the end, they really have enjoyed going through the process to diversify their diet. So that's the before. By the time you move to the after, you're working with friends to do the same. But remember, throughout all of this, there's barriers. There's barriers of, oh, it's difficult, I forgot, or it conflicts with something, or all sorts of barriers. So make a flow chart as to where you see this going, and what the wider pieces are, the details of the commitment that you want to make. So there's another way to think about this as you try to expand an environmental commitment that goes beyond yourself to others. Because if we're going to mobilize other people in our communities, we're probably going to want to have some ideas of how best to mobilize them. So I think you would probably, many people here would probably agree that some of the ways they've made change in the past is because of relationships they've had with other people who have convinced them of that a certain change is good. And when we identify with others who have made that change already, we're more likely to make that change ourselves. So this is an idea called the panic principles. And I don't actually like the word panic here because I don't think it fits so much, but it's an acronym for the 5 principles. P for personal, A for accountable. So consider how you've kept a commitment because of others who are watching you. Today, I was out and watching a gentleman in his suit with his tie and his dog, walking his dog. His dog pooped on the ground and the gentleman went down, got his baggie out, picked it up, and carried it with them after that. How crazy would have that been to see 20 years ago? A man in a suit picking up after his dog. But people do now because they feel accountable to others. If there was somebody observing him at the time, those people would have probably made judgments on him had they seen had the dog done its business and he didn't clean it up. So think about the times where you've been accountable to others and the fact that you've done something because of that accountability. That's the A in panic principle. How about normative? A normative is identify the changes that you've made from those that you've seen from others. So when you see evidence of the behavior change in other people, chances are it will amplify your behavior change. That's the N in panic. The I is identity relevant. So think about the groups you most closely identify with. So almost for everybody here should be tourism. Think about the similarities that you have with other people who also identify with tourism. You've probably seen it in classes at a university you've been at, or you've seen it in the workplace that you've been at. But behavior change is more likely when behaviors are aligned with other people who we see that are like ourselves, or we want to be like. It's a group identity idea. And so identity relevant is another piece on the panic principles. And then finally, it's connected. Reflect on your networks, your communities, and think about how they can help you. So leverage the structure of your networks, the relationships on these platforms, and to move change beyond yourself. Another idea to share today is the idea of storytelling. And so I put this in as the 6 E's of engagement. And so, and again, this isn't my idea. This came from a course that I was just recently in. The idea of ease, make it easy for others to find resources. That's what I do for my students all the time. I give them resources so they can take the initiative themselves and make change. I just did that to you. I gave you the resource of Cookie and Kate for vegetarian recipes, for perhaps making a change in your own life to have a vegetarian meal once a week. And I have entire classes that are spent on why that is better for the planet than eating meat 7 days a week, because you are eating closer to the land, and that creates far fewer environmental ills. Elevate, help people in your network connect with others in their own community. So the idea is you can do this often through the stories that are happening in their community. Make the idea memorable and help people be motivated to make change. Learn what you can to educate others and support them throughout, or entice them to take action. Storytelling is certainly a way to meet people where they are. Some people are more natural storytellers than others. Paulo, who I know is here on this, is one of the participants tonight. I see him as a storyteller. I've had him come into my classes. He's a colleague of mine at Carolina University, and he has had a lot of experiences in his life. And he draws on those experiences and then frames them in a way to give a lesson to other people on a subject that he's passionate about. Community is our superpower, but storytelling is how we engage the community. So Althea, we're about to open up the polls, and perhaps we could open up the first poll here as I put this out to the participants who are here. I've asked you to look at the Sustainable Development Goals earlier in this presentation, to reflect on those goals, and now I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And poll number 1 is, which Sustainable Development Goal speaks most deeply to your values, to your heart, to your being, for what you really truly believe in? And using the poll, and I'm going to ask Ali to come in here in a sec, using the poll function, I would like you to answer on the poll which of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals most strongly speak to your values.
One sec, going to launch it soon.
Okay, anytime you're ready though, Althea. While the first poll is starting to go, consider using the chat to start thinking about the kinds of commitments or the connection to the Sustainable Development Goal that you would be interested in making a commitment towards. We're going to be moving to the Sigmund platform after this presentation today. And on the Sigmund platform, the idea is to take a commitment and move into a wider community. So Althea, I'm putting it over to you right now for the poll. And so far I haven't seen anything yet, but let me know when it comes up. I'm just going to pause for a moment.
Okay, thank you so much. So for poll number 1, everybody, if you look at Attendify, on the right-hand side, we have the comments, we have around 400 attendees, and then we have this section called polls. So right now, the first poll is up and open for you to start voting on it. Please click on the poll icon to see the first poll and start voting now. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Althea. Now, as people are finishing their answering the first poll, I'm going to put the question up for the second poll. We have 3 in total. Second question is, which social Sustainable Development Goal do you think most easily connects to tourism in the tourism industry that you're in? So like I said earlier, Naz, who teaches food and beverage, might connect closely with Zero Hunger, but on the seafood side, he might be connecting with Sustainable Development Goal number 14, or on the sourcing side of products in food and beverage, might be connected with Sustainable Development Goal number 12. Think about the social SDG that connects most easily to tourism. And I'm going to ask Althea in a moment to put up poll number 2. Althea, if you could let me know when poll number 2 is up. I see in the chat that Stephanie Wells has just said, yes, community is our superpower. And she's so right.
Yep, so poll 2 is now up, and we have already 100 votes on poll 1. Roy, do you want us to close poll 1 for the moment so you can look at the results?
Sure, I guess I can't see the results until it's closed. Is that correct?
Can you see the results?
At the moment, I don't see the poll. I just see my presentation, but maybe when you close it, it will come up.
Okay, so we're going to close poll 1 now. Thank you everyone for voting. And poll 2, which social SDG connects most easily to tourism, is now up for voting, guys.
I'm enjoying looking in the chat here while I'm pausing to see where people are from in different parts of the world. Very exciting. For me, this is maybe the most international presentation I've ever done. And that's especially exciting, but then that's kind of the new way now, isn't it? With COVID and Zoom, so many of our presentations now go global. And thank you for all of you who are staying up at other hours. If you're in a part of the world where it's not sort of between 9 and 5, really appreciate you attending this. All right, let's go to poll number 3. So 3 polls total. First one was which SDGs speak deeply to your values in your heart? I'm afraid that I wasn't able to see the answers to that, but I'm sure that Althea will be able to share this with me after the presentation today. Second poll is which SDG connects most easily to tourism? And the third is which do you think you are most able to incorporate into your own life? So consider the sustainable development goal that most easily connects to you. And so Althea, in a minute or maybe 30 seconds, I'll ask you to put up poll number 3.
Okay, so we are currently putting up poll number 3. And I just wanted to share with you, Roy, the results from poll number 1, where we have 143 votes. That's amazing. And from what I can see, 14% of our votes, which is the highest percentage out of all 17 categories for the SDG, 14% of our votes were actually dedicated to Sustainable Development Goal number 1, no poverty.
Very good.
That is amazing. The second highest category that we have in poll number 1 is at 11%, SDG 4, quality education.
Excellent. Those are foundational sustainable development goals. When the sustainable development goals were created in 2015, both of those came from the Millennium Development Goals that went from the year 2000 to 2015. And so they've continued on for the second set of 15 years, 2015 to 2030. But they were absolutely key goals since the year 2000. So please continue.
Key foundational goals. I'm so happy that this is what our community voted on. The third highest category for poll number 1 is at 10%, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities.
Yes. Okay, and if you could close poll number 2 now.
Okay, so now we're going to close poll number 2. We have 150 votes for poll number 2. Thank you everyone for voting. That's absolutely amazing. So this is which SDG connects most easily to tourism. As I'm looking at it, our highest category is 23% at SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities.
Yeah, makes sense too, doesn't it? Especially that since most of the people who are on this Zoom presentation today probably live in a major city.
Our second highest category came in at 15%, SDG 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure. And honestly, based on yesterday's panel discussion, where we really talked about how infrastructure is so desperately needed to be invested in so that the tourism industry can really take care of tourism assets well, this is like, it's really amazing that this is also something that our community knows immediately is a goal that is closely related to tourism.
That is exciting. You really are the change generation, you know.
Our third category for poll number 2 is at 13%. We have SDG 12, responsible consumption and production.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And can you confirm that poll number 3 is up?
Yes, so poll number 3 is up. Which SDG are you most able to incorporate into your life? So everyone, your personal lives, take a look at, take a moment to reflect and answer poll number 3.
Very good. And in the process, I'm now going to just remind you of those critical decisions I asked you to reflect on earlier in the presentation. Those things in your life where you made decisions that worked out well, and you're happy you made the decision you did, or that you now, upon reflection, wish you had made a decision in a different way. And I'm going to scroll to the next screen and remind you that the Sustainable Development Goals run until 2030, meaning out of a total of a 15-year plan, there's only 9 years to go. So the question for you now is, after you've finished answering poll number 3, I want you to think about what Sustainable Development Goal decision you can make today that in 9 years' time, you will look back and say, I made a really good decision when I went to the PATA 2021 conference event. I made a good decision in what I was doing. And I can see clearly what that decision was. So this is going to be the beginning of what you take to the Sigmund platform. And I would like you now to move over to the chat and write 1 to 2 sentences on a commitment that you can see making to take further actions on the SDGs. And remember, how can you make that commitment extend out to your communities and your networks? And from here, you'll be taking this to the Sigmund platform after the workshop. So Althea, maybe I'll ask you to close poll number 3, and we'll watch as people answer in the chat.
Absolutely. So as everyone is answering Roy's question in the chat as to what commitment can you do to take further action on the SDGs, I'm really looking forward to seeing all your answers on the chat. Let's take a look at the results of poll number 3. So poll number 3, which SDG are you most able to incorporate into your life? As I scroll down, one category actually stands out the most. Out of 150 votes, we have 25% of those votes who voted for SDG number 3, good health and well-being.
Okay. Okay. And that would be for yourselves and for others. Good.
The next highest category is at 15%, SDG 12, responsible consumption and production.
I would say both of those relate very closely to tourism businesses too. The responsible production and consumption, I teach ecotourism. I teach adventure tourism, which actually fits into good health and well-being as well. And I see those as many interconnections to the tourism industry. And was there a third group?
Yeah. So for our third group at 12%, we have SDG 4, quality education.
Very good. Thank you very much, everyone, for answering the 3 polls. Hopefully you can capture all that information, send it over. And I'm looking forward now to moving to the chat and seeing people's answers. Ali, I see we have about 2 minutes to go, and maybe you can direct me as we move towards the end of this presentation and we move it over to the Kenna and the Capilano University side.
Yep. So definitely in the chat, I see some responses coming in. Everybody, please take this opportunity to type your responses into the chat about a commitment that you can personally do to take further action on the SDGs. So what I can see in the chat right now, Roy, is Nazni, who says she commits to eat better, support local, volunteer, educate, create partnerships.
Fantastic. Now, remember when you're asking others to make change, don't ask them to do so much. You can ask yourself, and you can commit to yourself what you want to do, but ask others to do one actionable, very clear, specific goal that you would suggest. Now, I also want to say, and I had I wanted to put together, I put together a resource list for people who are participating in this today. And in the resource list, you'll see a worksheet that Althea has sent out to everybody. I'm a big believer in the SDG Academy and the certified courses, master's level courses that you can get through the Academy on the Sustainable Development Goals. They also have all their videos that are somewhere in between about 6 and 15 minutes long on specific topics. And you can go in and type a search term like climate change, and you can find all sorts of videos that connect to the Sustainable Development Goals that have been taught by professors around the world. It's a master's level teaching, and if you want to learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals, I highly recommend to look at the SDG Academy. I've also made links on the worksheet to the planetary boundaries. I really believe in the work that the Stockholm Resilience Center is doing and out of Sweden. There is the Living Planet report that I mentioned earlier, what's happening with biodiversity. There's a connection there on climate change and some links for you there, inspiring hope in others. And the whole idea about making ourselves more literate when it comes to news and science news in particular, and having a better understanding of how to be able to discern good news from bad. So I've provided links there, and I think are really valuable, as well as volunteering and taking action. So it's all set up. The resources are set for you to deepen your knowledge and gain a more thorough understanding. So hopefully you will take that worksheet away from this workshop today and be able to use it and spend some time on the links that are there. So thank you very much. And Althea, it has been wonderful working with you. You are such a fantastic organizer. So thanks for making it easy.
Thank you so much, Roy. Roy, before you go, we find the chat is really popping with all these commitments. I really want you to hear some of them before you go. So yes. Elliot says he commits to driving environmentally friendly vehicles such as hybrid and electric cars. And if possible, he's going to drive less. In his home city during normal times, there are too many cars that cause a lot of traffic jams and carbon emissions. So using those cars are going to make a difference. This is absolutely amazing, Roy.
Yeah.
So Jordan, a student from UCSI, University Sarawak campus, he commits to SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. He says he's only going to order food and beverages that he knows he can finish everything. Even if there's leftovers, he's going to make use of it. So he's going to keep it for his next meal or use it as compost or feed the dogs. We're going to be really lucky dogs amongst others.
And as Jordan was his name?
Yes.
As Jordan learns that, as he makes those changes in himself, Jordan, think about how you can help others learn from what you've learned. So spread that idea through your network.
Another response in the chat, I absolutely love this, and it already has 5 likes. It's from Basilda. Basilda is a senior student advisor for the LISAM of the Philippines student chapter. She commits to SDG 12, and she's going to simply walk the talk. She's going to make herself a living testimony that you can live a life which is sustainable and ethical. Kelly, a student from Enderun Colleges. For her, her commitment is to live sustainably, avoid unnecessary waste, eat more healthy foods, and don't support companies who harm the environment and more. So being a very conscious consumer. Napason, who is our sustainability project support here at PATA, she's here supporting our SDG workshop as well. She says she commits to consuming well. She commits to educating herself and people around her, take action by volunteering, and also encouraging other people's success. So amplifying the successes that you and others around you have, that's also super, super important. And Roy, if you just take a look at what's happening on the Attendify chat now, I think for me, my heart has really grown and it feels super warm and fuzzy now because we see all these commitments to the SDG really pouring in on Attendify chat, and it's absolutely amazing. So everyone, please keep dedicating your commitments on the Attendify chat, even as we move on from the workshop to the next section, which is very, very important as well, because this is one way that we are going to take action on the commitments that we have right now. So if I could, can I please invite the Sigmund team, who have been waiting very patiently for this moment, to turn on their cameras, unmute themselves, and really introduce to us the Sigmund platform. That's this amazing platform that we can use. So Elle and Ali, over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Roy, for really energizing us and making us think twice about not only tourism, but ourselves and what we do every day, and how those actions become so important, not only on a personal level, a professional level, but on a global level too. We're very excited to be a part of this too. So thank you, Ali, too, for organizing this and allowing us to be a part of it. It's very exciting. We're going to jump right into our new and innovative idea that we want to share with you as a way to take some of the principles that Roy introduced and take them up to a completely new level that actually hasn't been done before. So we're quite excited to share that with you today. So let's get started with our presentation right now. So, and I'm presuming my screen is gone live at this point in time. So I'm going to jump right into it. What is Sigmund? Sigmund is the power of connection. This is brand new. And you're the first ones to actually see this live and in person and in color. It's very exciting for us to share it with you today. So what is the Sigmund Project? What we're going to do in our limited time today is tell you who we are, how Sigmund works for you, for tourism, and for the world, and how you can personally take action to take some of the things that Roy helped you uncover and put them on a global perspective and make things scalable to a point where maybe you never even thought of before. So most importantly, let us describe and define what Sigmund is. Sigmund is a completely free, open source platform for the global tourism community. Its sole purpose is to help find collaborators and bring innovative ideas to life. One of the things we realized during COVID was there was a great opportunity for innovation, and the best way we think to bring that to life is through collaboration. So with that, we're going to introduce you to Sigmund, and Sigmund has three main pillars. One is what we call our Looking Forward Journal, and that's a collection of ideas, expressions, resources, and other ideas to prompt you to think more creatively and be more innovative with our thinking and allow people to share other ideas and what's happening in the industry. The second platform is open source, which we'll go more into detail with you today, and a chance for you to an opportunity for you to participate in this exciting new platform. And the third is an investment grant. Now, this will come down the road in 2022, but this is an opportunity for 2 or more companies who are collaborating together to apply for investment grants and get new partners, not only financially, but philosophically and actually intellectually too, to help you take your idea and bring it to fruition or take it to the next step. With that as an idea, we're going to give you this little video intro to give you a little background about Sigmund. So enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. Oops. So as you can see, this is a really, truly revolutionary idea where someone has an idea, either you have an idea, you know someone who has an idea, or you can see ideas that are posted. The world gets to see these ideas and can collaborate in a number of ways, either giving advice, giving money, giving contact that they think will help, and take that idea to the next step. So it's really taking a lot of what Roy said, putting it into practice and taking it to a global scale. This is a collection of ideas, and what we're expecting from you is even more ideas and more ingenuity and more innovation too. All the ideas that are presented have to have a few values, and we just want to focus on a couple. One is what's traditionally called a triple bottom line. So every idea that's presented has to have KPIs, ways to measure its involvement with people and community and what it's doing for that, what it's doing for the planet, for the environment, for the future, and it's what it's doing to make profit, because we know sustainability is not just about people and planet, but making sure that the organization is profitable, because that means it's really sustainable and can have the impact on the people and planet as long as it maintains profitability. The other thing that we're requiring for all those who submit ideas is part of being the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which Roy's talked about so much, and now you guys have a good feel for it too, and that's very exciting. And with that, I'm going to talk a little about the sample ideas, and the expert in that is actually Ali, so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ali, who will talk to you about these particular things.
Thanks, Al. So these are actually ideas on our website at the moment. So we're going to run through some of the samples, hope you get your creative juices flowing. So one of the sample ideas is a safari camp owner who wants to do all electric powered vehicles at their safari camp. So they're looking for collaborators who can advise about doing electric powered vehicles in a really, really remote area, and how would that work? Another idea, dynamic pricing model for museums. So when you book a seat on an airplane, there's different prices for the seat based on when did you book it, early, late, what kind of seat is it? So why can't museums have something similar? So someone's looking to develop that. This is an idea from Italy where he uses sustainable boat in Italy, in Venice, to travel in a lesser known populated area instead of the over touristed areas of Venice. We have Joy's idea. This is one of my favorites. So Joy noticed that there's a ton of data out there about noise pollution, tons of data about how loud every place is around the world. So she wants to take all that big data and create tours on the most quiet places around the world and market those tours to people who are highly sensitive, maybe suffering from PTSD, anybody who just needs a quiet holiday, probably all of us these days. Mark's idea, he wants to create an app where retired pilots can barter with private plane owners. So the private plane owner needs a co-pilot, and the retired pilots have the skills and have the time. So he wants to create an app for that. And lastly, we have Matthew's idea. He wants to build special tours for out-of-state real estate investors. So when someone comes to a city to potentially buy a property, they also now are going to have a brewery tour, or maybe kayak down the Hudson River. So Matthew's looking for tourism boards who might be interested in attracting out-of-state real estate investors. So those are just some of the latest submissions that we have. So maybe now you're starting to think, okay, I could submit an idea. I have something percolating. We say, maybe you're an existing business. Maybe you have a website. Maybe you're making money, or maybe you came up with it last night in your dreams. It truly doesn't matter. We're open to everything. So the open source submission form, just run through it really quick so you can get a preview. We ask you for the basic stuff like your name, your email, your country, and if you're submitting as a team or as an individual. And you're welcome to submit as many times as you like as well. I wanted to make note of that. So after you give us a bit about your details, we're going to also ask what chapter, PATA student chapter, you're a member of. And if not a member of a chapter, that's okay. You can just leave it blank. Next, we're going to ask you, this is the big question. Tell us about your idea in one sentence. So this is probably the hardest question, but the most important, because we're boiling it down to what is your idea all about. We also ask you, what are you looking out? What do you want by posting on Sigmund? So everyone says, I'm looking for a collaborative partner who knows about open source data, or I'm looking for someone who has really good experience in the hotel housekeeping sector. So we want to know what you want out of this whole experience. And then we're going to ask you for, next slide. The most important question. What is it about your idea that makes you feel good? So where is the passion? Because we can all come up with some idea, but if we don't care about it, then what's the point? So this is a very important question we like to ask. So once you've got the basics, we're going to then drill down and get some more detailed information. Now we're going to ask you, what makes your idea innovative? Why hasn't anyone done it before? This is where you can put all the roadblocks that Roy talked about, all the challenges. But together, using collaboration, global collaboration, we can overcome a lot of challenges that might seem kind of big. Next. After that, we're going to ask you, how far does your idea reach? Is it a regional idea? Is it global? Does it go to outer space? So we actually don't have the option. We should put outer space as one of the options there. Who will benefit most from your idea? So who are the stakeholders? Who is going to benefit most from Matthew's out-of-state real estate investor tours? Or who's going to benefit most if the museums have a dynamic pricing model? And then ideally when you're going to launch. So have you launched it already? That's an option. Or maybe you're going to launch it in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. That's where you'll put your time frame. Because as Al likes to say, an idea without a deadline is nothing more than a dream. So then the most perhaps important question, although I think I've said that a few times, is what UN goals does your idea relate to? So this is a really important way we can tie everything back in to what Roy just gave us all the information about. So what UN goals does your idea relate to? And of course, what we're most interested in is how does it work with the people, planet, and profit? How does your idea support those three categories? If you have a website, you can pop your website there. If you have a video, even better. And then just share a few images that communicate your idea best. You click submit, and it goes to the Sigmund team for review. So you're done. Then we will review it. If we have any questions, we'll get in touch with you. If not, it'll go live on our website. And from there, people from around the world are able to give you helpful tips, tools, resources, basically what you're hoping to gain. The more clear you are, the more likely you have a chance of getting those things. So let's say you are not necessarily an idea person, but you love connecting people, you love helping, giving tips. Maybe you're more of a collaborator. So what you would do is click on an idea on our site, and there's 4 ways to collaborate. You can send a private message. You can also share the idea on social or share the idea via email to a friend. You can also like the idea, and you can comment publicly. So those are your 4 ways you can collaborate with an existing idea on the site. So you can submit an idea, you can collaborate, and you can do both. And you can do all, and you can do often. So that's my
So as you can,
that's my portion,
go
and
ahead,
I'm handing it back over to our fearless leader, Al.
Thanks, Ali. As you can see, there's a lot of points of entry for Sigmund, either coming up with ideas, solving ideas. It could be individually, it could be through a class. There's a myriad of ways to do it. And we've just given you a little sample of ideas, but as you can imagine, there's a lot more ideas. And I'm guessing because most of you are students, you've already been multitasking and watching this presentation and on our website at the same time. So keep it going, keep looking, keep creating, keep thinking. And then I'm going to hand it back over to hear a little bit more about what's going on in the program and how you can participate. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Absolutely no problem. I love the Sigmund website. I love the submission form. So everybody, we're going to drop the link for Sigmund's website in the Attendify chat. Look out for that. And next up, we have Kenna from representing the PATA student chapter from Capilano University to really tell us a little bit more of the post-event activity that she and her student chapter has planned. Kenna, please welcome on stage.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm just gonna share my presentation here. So, hello, as they said, I'm Kenna. I am the Director of Internal Communications at the PATA Capilano University Student Chapter, and I produce and host the What in the World in Travel podcast that we run there. I'm currently in the Bachelor of Tourism Management program, and I'm from Vancouver, Canada. This is just a little bit about our student chapter. That's some photos of our team members, our fearless team members who I couldn't have done any of this without, so I'm so grateful for them. I hope they're watching. And so what can we do with everything that we learned today? So that's kind of where this idea came in, intertwining the SDGs as well as Sigmund. So we introduced to you Scaling Up with Sigmund, a PATA student chapter challenge. So this challenge is open until May 11th. Essentially what we're asking you all to do is, using the Sigmund platform, submit a minimum of 1 new idea per chapter or per YTP, and review other chapter ideas and provide tips to help them. So what you can do is you can keep active on the Sigmund site throughout the challenge to see how your idea is developing, much like the ideas that the Sigmund team had discussed just moments ago. We ask that you invite your professors and industry contacts to go online and provide tips to ideas and to your idea even better. If you aren't a current chapter member, like I said, feel free to post your own personal idea or tip of your own. You'll still be eligible for these prizes that we'll be talking about on the next slide. So the idea generation closes on May 11th, and a panel will review all submissions for the most impactful idea to be scaled up. This will allow all of you to scale up your impact and build a greater global network, just like what PATA is aiming to do. So the prizes, so 1 prize of $100 will be awarded to the most creative idea. 1 prize of $100 will be awarded for the most helpful tip. So say you reach out to someone on the Sigmund platform and provide them with some insight for their project. And then one grand prize will be awarded to the idea with the most potential to become a reality. So this prize is $300 and you will get a 30-minute mentoring/brainstorming session with the Sigmund team to take the idea to the next level. So yes, like I said, deadline is May 11th, 2021. So that's exactly 2 weeks today. Basically at the end of this session. So right now it's 9:30 p.m. PST, but for most of you, I'm sure it's 11:30 a.m. By this time, 2 weeks from now, your idea should be on the site so we can begin evaluating for prizes. So yeah, lastly, we just have this little slide about my student chapter and myself, and I'm here for any questions that you guys may have about the event kind of thing, follow-up event. And yeah, we'll be posting all about it on our Instagram, pada.capu.studentchapter, or on Facebook at @padacapu, or on LinkedIn at @padacapu.
And thank you so much, Kenna, for that super exciting post-event activity called Scaling Up with Sigmund. Those prizes are really just out there waiting for you guys to grab it. So I highly encourage all our PADA student chapters as well as our PADA youths, both individuals and student chapters can participate in the competition. And I'm so excited to see what ideas that you guys are going to come up with on the Sigmund platform. So thank you very much. Now we are going to go into a quick Q&A section, just to give our audience on Attendify an opportunity to ask any of our guest speakers today, whether it's Roy, who gave us the workshop, whether it's the Sigmund team, Al and Ali, or whether it's Kenna, to ask Kenna questions about the competition. So now is really the Q&A section where you have an opportunity to really reach out to our guest speakers, our amazing team today, to ask them questions about anything you have, whether it's the workshop, the platform, or the competition. Okay, so please, if you have questions, please put it into the Attendify chat. And honestly, to kick us off, I have a question for the Sigmund team. How did you come up with this idea, with this platform? Where did you guys start and how did you guys come up with it?
Thank you. It's an interesting question. I've been involved in the industry for many years and wanted to be able to give back to the industry. Probably the biggest thing I saw is the opportunity for innovation in travel. And I see a lot of young, smart people with a lot of great ideas. At the same time, COVID hit. And what COVID did in my eyes was bring collaboration to a higher level, where people in the past were very competitive and not willing to collaborate or share ideas. COVID brought it to the forefront to let's collaborate, let's work together. There's that expression, we're all in the same boat. Well, we're all in the same ocean in different boats, but when we put boats together, we can go farther. And so I think the idea came to say, how do we sponsor this? How do we encourage this? How do we grow this? We want to see these innovative ideas come to life. And we think now's the time for innovation. We've also realized that during COVID, as much as people were always creative, the industry and people in general were not as open to creativity as they are now. People are open to doing things that they didn't think about doing 2 years ago. Now there's that openness with that collaboration. It's that right intersection, and we want to be on that corner.
I absolutely love where you guys are coming from. I 100% agree that now is the time for collaboration and innovation. And I'm sure all the youth agree as well. So we're so pleased that the platform Sigmund exists. So once again, everyone, Sigmund's website is www.sgmnd.org. So please, everybody, please visit the website, drop your ideas, submit tips, collaborate with people, connect with people, and let's get this started. Okay, so while we wait for any questions to come in from Attendify, I have one more question for Kenna. Kenna, I think I want to ask you, what do you or do your student chapters want to see with the competition? What's the best outcome that could come out from this competition?
we're really looking for ideas that reinforce the goal of PATA, essentially, to build greater connections. So that's why we place such great importance on, even, for me, I might not be someone who has all these grand ideas, but I'm someone who can contribute to someone else's. So even that little bit that you think isn't going to mean anything could mean the world to someone else. And that's so extremely important, especially with Sigmund. This platform is honestly something I feel like I've looked for my entire life and just haven't had. As a kid, I feel like I was more of the idea person, and now I'm more of the hard fact person. And I would have contributed greatly to this. So I'm really excited just to see everyone's different opinions and everything on the Sigmund website, and seeing how people from different countries will interact with even our own chapter. We're really excited to see that.
Thank you so much, Kenna. I agree. 100% agree with you. I'm so pleased that your student chapter and yourself are leading this competition to really generate that interest and generate that engagement in our community. Thank you so much for doing it.
We're so grateful to have the opportunity, especially with help from the School of Tourism Management at CapU and from PATA HQ. We're so grateful to have this opportunity to share and connect with the global community.
Okay, so Roy, to wrap up this Q&A session, I wonder if you got a chance during the presentations after your workshop to really look at some of the comments and some of the commitments in the Attendify chat. Did you manage to see?
I did. I did get a chance to look through them. I actually took that time to try to comment on a few of them. I've seen a few people who made specific connections to a certain sustainable development goal. A couple people, you could hear the passion in the comments that they were making that you read out. And then several who listed out a lot of things. And that probably speaks to their enthusiasm. You're here today, you're excited with PATA, but I really, really would encourage those people to really focus in on something, on one thing, not try to do 7 things at once. And because that we all want to do more, but that doing more should come in stages, not all at one time. And it's like going to the gym. And if you tried to do everything in a gym all at once, you'd come home very, very sore. You have to do it in stages as you go.
Thank you so much for that advice. Honestly, that is really good advice. Spot on. Choose one thing to focus on, one thing to be super passionate about, and push it as far as you can go before you focus on other things. Ali, do you want to add something?
You're muted, Ali.
I just am excited to see the ideas come through, because so far the students have blown us away with your creativity and your skill set. Kenna runs a podcast. Al and I can barely find the podcast app on our phones. So I'm impressed already with the level of expertise that the students have. And I think just because you're a student, don't discount yourself because you're not a giant company, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I always tell my student chapters and my PATA youths that as you are enough. You are exactly where you need to be in order to create the positive impact around yourself for your local community. You don't need to be a better version of yourself. You don't need to be a big company. You don't need to be anything else but just yourself in order to create impact.
Absolutely.
And if I can add to that, we all have a creative muscle, and we just need to use it a little more, and don't be shy about using that creative muscle. And Sigmund allows you to use it without asking anybody else's approval, and no one saying that's not a good idea or a bad idea. Every idea on Sigmund's a good idea. So use that muscle. The more you do, the more you'll be able to impact society, the more you'll be able to impact the world, and the more you'll be able to impact yourself too. So if you want to raise the level of everything that we're talking about tonight. This is a great platform to start off on and give you some confidence and see what other people think. So thank you for the opportunity for that too.
Okay, so thank you very much to everyone who has contributed to today's session, to our guest speakers, to the student chapter, to Kenna, to the Sigmund team, as well as everyone who attended attended this workshop today. I think at our peak we had around 400 people constantly live on Attendify. That is absolutely amazing. So right now I'm just going to share with you what else we have upcoming for the PATA Annual Summit at 2 p.m. And here I will just need my slides for one moment. Hang on. Okay. So at 2 p.m., we have an executive interview between BBC and the CEO of Ras Al Khaimah Development Authority. And of course, a huge shout out to Ras Al Khaimah, who was our platinum sponsor for PATA Annual Summit 2021, as well as the Global Tourism Economy Forum, who is our gold sponsor. And we have so many people who have come behind us to sponsor PAS 2021. Thanks to their support, we are able to make PAS free for all to attend. So thank you very much. At 3 p.m., we have something super exciting happening. It is the PATA Leaders Debate. This is sponsored by Airbnb. So I highly encourage everybody to join us for the PATA Leaders Debate. It's going to be such a energizing, energy-packed session. I can't wait to see it happen. So of course, the Youth Symposium today has come to an end, but tomorrow we have one last session where it's really time for our PATA student chapters to shine. This is the PATA student chapter roundtable discussion that happens regularly. And out of 29 student chapters that are spread out across the world, tomorrow we have an amazing number of 26 out of 29 student chapters represented on our international platform. So all those student chapter leaders are going to be representing their peers, their university, their country on our platform. And this is absolutely an amazing milestone for our PATA youth community as the single fullest representation of PATA student chapters around the world. So if you're interested to find out what the PATA youth are up to, please join us tomorrow. That is happening tomorrow. That is happening tomorrow. I'm sorry, the graphic is wrong. It's not happening yesterday. It's happening tomorrow in the afternoon. So we also have more opportunities for our PATA youth coming up. The next opportunity I want to tell you guys about is the Building Bridges Fellowships between IGLTA and PATA. So this opportunity is when we sponsor one youth to attend the IGLTA annual global convention. And this is in support of the next generation of LGBTQ+ travel professionals and allies. The deadline to apply is 15 June 2021, and we will leave the link in the Attendify chat. So to never miss out an opportunity like the PATA IGLTA Building Bridges Fellowship, please make sure to join us as a PATA youth member. It is free for students between the ages of 18 to 35, or if you've graduated for no longer than 2 years. We are a super happening, super fun international community that is here to support each other and amplify each other's voices. So join us at pata.org/youth. Again, we're going to put the link in the Attendify chat below. So once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank our PATA youth sponsors. These are 5 organizations that have really sponsored us and supported us throughout the global pandemic and continue to support us today. They are iFree Group, Guam Visitors Bureau, Map2 Ventures, Sigmund, and Talent Basket. And of course, today's session was sponsored by Sigmund. So thank you very much to our PATA youth sponsors. We also couldn't have run such a successful event without the support of our co-hosts. Today, our co-hosts are Bali Tourism Polytechnic, Dusit Thani College, Lombok Tourism Polytechnic, Taylor's University, the University of Baguio, and the PATA Philippines University of Mindanao student chapter. So to each and every one of our co-hosts today, thank you so much for supporting us, for supporting this event and making this event successful. We couldn't have done it without you. I'm sure we're all super familiar right now with our sponsor today. This session was sponsored by Sigmund. The power of connection is real. And I'm very excited to see what the community will come up with on Sigmund's platform from now on moving forward. And that is it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being together with me today in my living room for this youth symposium. It's been such an amazing session. The Attendify chat was absolutely amazing, popping with all your commitments to the SDGs. And I really, truly believe in the power of youth. So if anyone has any questions, of course, you feel free to email me at ytp@pata.org. I am always open for new collaborations and just to talk. So thank you very much, guys. We're done.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, Alec.
Alethea.
Thank you, everyone, for speaking today
Thank
and for
you.
being part of this session.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.